as you mentioned, there's 2 delegations, and the 4.3 Ocean Rock, the 4.3 Ocean Rocks Trail and Neighbouring Wildlife Refuge is postponed till our presumed January meeting. So that won't be happening tonight. Okay, so can I have someone move to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, DG. And seconded, Sue Ellen.
As amended.
Thank you, as amended. And all in favor? Thank you. Now we're on 2.1, adoption of the minutes from September 13th. Hopefully people have had a chance to read through them. Are there any errors, omissions, suggested changes to those minutes? Okay, can I have someone move to adopt them? Jeremy, thank you. And seconded, Rod, Ben, and all in favor, adopting the minutes? Thank you, they are adopted. Okay, and now for public comments. We have delegations, but we don't have public comments. Is that right, Steph?
No, I think we'll put the Emiko, Ando, and Mr. Cummings in the closer to the council referral. So
Okay.
nothing else. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, can you say that again? I missed that.
We had the Cummings application when we had them speaking in public comments in other meetings when Daniel's presentation followed. But as we have 2 delegations now, I think we'll just skip them over to closer to when Daniel presents.
When will that be?
After the 2 delegations.
Okay.
Okay. So 4.1 is the Malkin Creek Trail expansion, and Ian is with us and is going to speak to that. Welcome, Ian.
Hi there. I think a drawing had been done of my thoughts for that in the past, but I don't know if you guys still have access to that or.
I have something linked to the agenda. Would you like me to share the screen?
Sure.
Okay.
And the reason it came about is during our subdivision, a couple of the neighbors suggested that it would be nice to keep the hiking people off the trails, off that road section on Amelia Lane, because quite a number of people hike that trail now. And so I went and had a look to see if there was a route. Now that the water reservoir is gone from that area, I know there's still signage that says it's a watershed area all along there, but I'm not sure that it's still classified that, since all the Bowen Bay water is coming out of a well, or a series of wells. So there's an existing trail that goes through a fence. The existing fence that used to stop people from going into the reservoir, which would be just below the S in phase and red. And then there's a very easy way to go from there up to where would make a great parking area off to the right-hand side at the trailhead. That area there was fill that was delivered to that location when Malkin Creek Road and Amelia Lane were put in by Don McLeod way back in the late 80s. And so there's just basically a giant pile of fill up there with some alders growing on it. And I think the trail could probably be done with about 2 or 3 loads of gravel and a small culvert on the right-hand side of Amelia Lane if there was to be parking to go into that, in that area. Right now, people park in the cul-de-sac area down at the bottom, and go and hike from there. I hike the mountain every week, and I have noticed that the parking lot up at Lower Road is getting more and more full. Well, it's almost always full, actually, and parking is on the road. So giving people a place to park and another access point from this side, I think would be a great idea, and it's a very inexpensive thing to do. I volunteered to do the, I have a couple of small machines, and I could do the machine work and spread the gravel. Just need some gravel and a culvert. So I thought of it when we were doing our subdivision. So
Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
there's the other connection is that phase 2 one. There's an old aluminum bridge up near the reservoir that used to go out to the, I think where the water was taken in from the reservoir. There was this bridge that they had, like this aluminum gangway, which is, they're very light, and it could be moved over to just above where E is on phase 2 to span Malkin Creek, to connect the park. You know, people like to do loops, and that would give people access to that loop without having to go all the way down to basically, well, if you're to walk on the trails, you have to go all the way down to the first parking area to your far left, and then come back up the road in order to do a loop. So this would allow people to go to Sluggett, you know, do a loop through Sluggett Field, joining up with the Sluggett Field Trail. And it was also allow people, if they were going to use Sluggett Field, which is very underutilized, somewhere to park closer without going into the strata of Evergreen 1.
Well, some committee members did head out there to look at the proposed trail expansion, and
I'm sorry I missed that one. I fell and broke my hip, and I think I was
I'm sorry
just
to hear that.
either in hospital or just getting out of hospital at that time. So
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Ian?
Sue Ellen, it would be similar to what I showed you many, many years ago.
That's what I'm thinking. Is it sounds familiar. Where did you say the old bridge was? That the light aluminum bridge?
It's sitting on the ground, right next to where the reservoir used to be, just in the weeds, basically. Yeah. And it's long enough. I went there with Bonnie and brought a tape measure, and it could bridge over top of the creek without any disturbance at all.
And the purple, the phase 2 part?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just catching up.
It would need to have some sort of, maybe a lock block, or like a small lock block on either side, so that you could anchor it on either side, but it would be from high bank to high bank.
Okay.
No culverts, no anything, which that was one of the things that Bonnie was concerned about, was destroying the habitat there. Although I don't think there's any fish in it.
There were some concerns on that phase 2 portion that the trail down one side of the creek and up the other might cause erosion. So I know that I think staff were going to look into the feasibility of that and make sure that it didn't degrade the creek with eroding sediment. But I'm not sure what the update is on that at this point. But any other comments or questions? Jeremy? Then
I'd just like to add my 2 cents worth in as regards the idea loop trails back in the 90s. We had established loop trails as a pretty fundamental aspect of trails rather than just a there and back. The ones that are loops tend to be much more frequently used, be it for dog walking or whatever purpose. So in essence, it has the right flavor.
Mhm. Sue Ellen?
I'm just wondering, having worked with Ian way back when we were on the Bowen Island Parks and Rec Commission, I think it was at the time, when people, members of the community would chip in would volunteer their time and their equipment and their expertise. And I'm just wondering, now we've got this new participation agreement to get bigger projects done, like the bike park, for example. But I'm wondering, for this is a question for staff. Carla, can you see this being something that you could work with a neighboring landowner, volunteer, trail hiker, longtime Bowen volunteer on?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if it would require a collaborative project service agreement. And I mean, that's usually more with groups who are doing fundraising. I think that the intention with this is that Ian would just volunteer his time, and then we would put forth the funds through our annual budgeting process, or yeah, like it would just be a capital project. But yeah, I think that it's possible for sure.
Good. Okay, thank you. And then my other question is just about volunteering. I know there's some, we have some kind of volunteer policy around building for example, building the NERP kiosks and things like that. So you think that, but just generally, you're nodding. You think this can.
Yeah, I think we would just have to like sign a volunteer waiver policy.
Okay.
Anyways, I would probably have to check with someone to make sure on that. So, but that's my guess.
No, thank you. I'm just sort of catching up on the project because I haven't been around much and I missed the September meeting as well. So my apologies for that. I had COVID. Anyway, I'll stop there.
Okay, any other questions for Ian? Comments? Okay, thank you very much, Ian.
Okay.
Thanks, Ian.
When do you guys think you might make a decision on it, or is it a budget thing, or what is it?
Carla.
I think we're gonna talk about it during this meeting a little later in the meeting. And then it would be up to the committee if they want to make a recommendation to council, whether to include it in the budget for 2023 or not. So I can give you an update after this meeting. Like,
yeah, when Bonnie and I walked it, the trail's really already there. It's just a matter of maybe just clearing out a bit of underbrush and spreading some gravel. So quite a simple thing to do, much simpler than the trail that we built on our property. So yeah,
we saw that one. It's pretty pretty intense. It looks great though.
Yeah.
My compliments.
Mhm.
okay, all right, well, thanks for taking the time for me.
Okay, thank you very
All right.
much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to move on to 4.2, Artisan and Roocroft Lane Stairs, and Shari Ulrich is here to talk to us about that.
4.2, woohoo! So is anybody not familiar with those stairs that come down from up there, from Kate's Hill? You're not?
Well, I'm just want to make sure I'm thinking about the correct set of stairs. So you're thinking about the ones that come down from around the veterinary area there down to the school? Is that the ones?
No,
Okay.
it's the ones that come from Kate's Hill, below Rivendell, across from Tiernanog, and they come down. So there's three sets. The top two sets were rebuilt. Well, I don't know how far back you need me to go, but initially there were stairs built at my request to Bowen Island Properties because it's so steep and Kate's Hill families use it to get to the school. So they built 3 sets in the steepest sections that I marked out of basically landscape ties, but they're 4x6 blocks instead of landscape ties with gravel, filled with dirt and gravel. And then suddenly the top ones were rebuilt, very skookum, wood railing. And I've only now learned, or more recently learned, that they were built by Bowen Island Properties at the request of, or in exchange for, what's the terminology? It's in my letter here, for the subdivision approval. So when that happened, I wrote Bowen Island Properties and said, these are fantastic, and are you going to do the lower ones? What I didn't realize, I didn't get a response, but I didn't realize that in fact they are on Artisan Square, LMS 303032, residential strata property. That lane is an easement for TELUS, for hydro, for all sorts of things. So I just always assumed that they were on the edge of the easement. But when it turned out, when they got damaged by a company that BC Hydro uses to do some prep work for a pole that they're putting in along that easement, and I'm working on them on a claim with that company. When they got damaged, then that's when we learned that it was on residential strata property, which was a big surprise. I mean, we should have known, it's on the maps, but we did not know until now. So we did not know about the damage when it first happened because I don't use those stairs. And once I noticed them, I did the sleuthing and figured out where the damage came from. So I'm still working on that. But they were in such bad shape, and it's such a steep section. We felt like we had to get them repaired right away. So it turned out that the fellow that I got to do it, Matt Walker, is the one who built the wooden stairs above. So he has done the job. He's going to put a railing in so that it's to code. He did a great job. And so that's where we are with it. We now realize that now that I know that the Muni took over the upper trail for that deal with Bowen Island Properties, now we realize it only makes sense, since the trail has to continue in order to be of use. It makes sense for the municipality to take it over as a continuation of that trail. Any questions? Yes.
DG.
Unmute.
Sorry. Just wondering about the length of the portion that is on the strata property as compared to what the
I haven't
municipality
measured.
has.
I have not.
Approximately.
Well, it's 41 stairs, but I have not measured it in relation, comparing it to the upper sections. It couldn't be done. It had to be done in the same way with the landscape tie style, because it's so steep there. He couldn't do the wooden style, which was actually kind of a relief because it's much cheaper. So there are 2 things that we wanted to bring to you. One is we understand that there are situations on Bowen where the continuation of a trail across private property has led to it being taken over by the Muni. So that's part of it. The other part is because we couldn't wait for safety reasons, it didn't seem right to wait until somebody else was willing to take it over and pay for it. We don't know, and we would like to, part of our ask is whether or not the municipality would therefore be willing to compensate us to some degree anyway for the rebuilding of the stairs. It actually continues down across, it goes right to the edge of Roocroft Lane, crosses Roocroft, and then the stairs, the cement stairs, which I'm sure some of you have taken, between Roocroft Lane and Artisan Square is really the continuation of that trail. And those stairs are on a combination of the residential property and this commercial property of Artisan Square. So I don't know whether the Muni wants to just have that run or just know that that's also on the table. We maintain that. Because they're cement, I shovel them and we put up LED lights and make them as safe as possible.
And Shari, do you have an estimate of what the work would cost?
Yes, because I asked him if he could get me an actual invoice for tonight. His first estimate was 4,000, and he didn't have to get quite as much wood. So it's going to be, right now it's at 2,600, but he hasn't done the railing yet.
Okay. All right. Any questions, Jeremy, and then DG?
I just wanted to say that I have some experience with that trail, and it is used a lot. I would say it's a pretty vital connector for kids, for dog walkers, for all kinds of people. It's the easiest way to get to Artisan, certainly from Upper Cates Hill, and it sees a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
So there is an argument to be made that it does have relevance in the Muni Trail network.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Jeremy. And I guess I was thinking in terms of the process to get it turned over to under Muni auspices, it would need to legally change hands. And I'm just wondering whether Steph or Carla knows how involved is
works.
that?
Yeah.
How involved is that actually getting a dedicated trail through there?
I would say regularly when it's just a private property owner, it's fairly simple. Like we can use a standard agreement and then just have the lawyers review it. There is some cost associated with the legal review, and then also with registering that with the Lands and Titles Office. I don't know how much more complicated it would be with the Strata. In my experience, it's been really complicated to find any work with the Strata. So it's, things are just not as readily available, and it seems like it would probably be more complicated.
It might be. We haven't formally gotten the approval from, the residential Strata is 7 households, and we're much less complicated than the commercial section, which is why we separated. So, and everybody's on board with it. So there won't be any kind of conflict about doing it. We just have to have the formal approval. But that's as much as I know. Like, I'm assuming that it shouldn't be that different than, because there's so few of us and it's a relatively small legal entity.
It may be as
know.
It may be as simple as just getting a signature from each residence in the Strata. I did have one question. Sorry, Claudia, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, please.
So the lower stairs, the cement stairs, are those all cement? And also, are they in good shape? And are they part of the residential strata or part of the commercial strata?
Well, we just learned that they are 2/3 on the residential property and 1/3 on the commercial property. And they're in very good shape. I haven't seen any kind of degradation at all.
Okay.
So, and there's a handrail and lights.
And Ben?
I think this is a great idea, and I fully support it. I wonder, is there a precedent for the municipality to compensate people for work that's already done that we decide to take on? I like, does anyone know that? Is that something that's sort of easy to find out? Because it would be too bad for people to do this great work and then not be compensated for it.
Well, what I would say is that if this committee recommends it to council could then consider it. I'm not sure there's any precedence for them, reimbursing someone for repairs done to stairs that, were on the resident. because they were their stairs to maintain. Legally, I don't see why council would go for that, to be honest, but there's no harm in asking.
Yeah, I think it would be more about them not having to pay to have them rebuilt themselves if they feel it's an important artery. And I have certainly not given up getting compensated by Altec, which is the company that tried to turn their truck around and drove onto the stairs. But they're being a little bit, yeah, it hasn't been as simple as I'd hoped. So.
Just one more question related to the continuation of that trail all the way down to Bix. Does anyone know offhand who owns the land that very steep kind of rugged trail from Artisan Square down to the school? Who owns that land? Is that municipally owned?
Should I jump in?
Yeah.
I'm not 100% clear because it's been, I believe that it's owned by whoever bought the land from Rainforest Construction, which is Doug Barry, to become Artisan Muse, which has stalled completely. So it could be, I believe it's on that property, but I'll have to ask Doug Barry.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that would be great to continue the trail all the way down to the school.
That would
Yeah,
be an ambitious,
absolutely.
but important because everybody uses it.
Mhm.
Ellen?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, Carla, has anybody looked at the parks plan and what kind of direction we've set for ourselves a few years ago when council adopted this plan for these kinds of ideas? I'm seeing nothing. Okay, thank you.
Oh, I think so. On the way, we're just listening to Shari today, and then we're going to discuss this at a further meeting in January, hopefully.
Sure. Well, I just thought maybe Shari had looked at it and that's fine. Probably not.
I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, fair enough.
I may not be alone in that.
Then I was just going to say that, yes, the part of the trail, the upper part of the trail is on private property. The one that's past like the lower part of Artisan, that's kind of starts past the parking there. That part is on private property. And then the lower portion is on municipal land. We do have a kind of a swath of land down there.
Right, interesting.
Adjacent to the ferry lanes?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments for Shari?
I will keep you all posted
you.
on whether or not we can get it paid for. And I've got pictures that I sent, so those can get attached later, perhaps.
Okay,
But they
wonderful.
look great and they're nice and safe, even in the snow.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Take
Thanks
care.
for having me.
Bye-bye. All right, so we will move on now to the council referral. It's regarding a rezoning application for 8 Arbutus Bay Road. And Daniel is with us to lead us through. Go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Claudia.
Daniel,
I have a so I have a presentation here. I'll go through. So as you've said, I'm here with a rezoning application from council. It's a rezoning at 8 Arbutus Bay Road. And there's the context of where the site is. It's on the south coast of Bowen. It's sort of southwest of the Bowen Island Golf Course. It's a 7.2 hectare property created by subdivision in 2008. Formerly, it was a one larger parcel, now divided into 3. So you see it there in the bottom right. That's from our like 1970s, I think, zoning map. So the application is to apply to rezone the property to allow it to be subdivided to create 7 residential lots. So you see them marked here, so 6 along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sort of the southern half, and the larger one on the north, and then a almost 2.9 hectare park. So those are the areas that are in green. And then I've noted here small common property, and that's actually a municipal, what's proposed is a municipal road coming in to about the halfway point down the development to provide access to the park and to the lots, and then a strata road that would continue on down, but that would still provide public access over that road to the viewpoint of Echo Bay. The property is zoned rural residential 1A, and that allows uses that are common in our rural residential zone, so dwelling, agriculture, horticulture, stable, and kennel. It has this zone variation. This in the neighboring properties or this zone variation. It's a variation that allows one main dwelling per 2 hectares of lot area. Sorry, I'm going forward. So 3 total main dwellings permitted on the zone, and it permits 1 accessory dwelling, so a detached secondary suite as well. In the official community plan, it's designated as rural residential 1 hectare. So that would allow it to be rezoned to be 7 residential lots. And the overall objective of that designation is to provide lots that allow for rural residential use while maintaining the unique amenities and environment of the island. And I don't actually have a slide here too, but if you look in, it's called Schedule E of our official community plan, shows the proposed parks and trails that we desire in rezonings or to obtain. And you see one sort of at the peninsula there around Echo Bay is identified as a future park site. But in reviewing the application, we look at things like the conservation development policy that's recently adopted by council, and that seeks a goal of 50% of the total land subject to rezoning application to be protected from further development. And this application proposes approximately 40% of the overall lot to be provided as park. And the application also proposes that a covenant be placed on the proposed lot 3. So it's the site of a current horse pasture, and the proposal is that that horse pasture remains free from future development. So there would be house site identified, development site identified on that lot, but that the remainder of the horse pasture area would remain free from future development. Other considerations, so currently the property does not directly reach the municipal road system, so it's accessed by easement both to over the east and west neighbors to either Fairweather Lane or Arbutus Bay Road. But the application proposes to construct a road across the property to the north and provided a letter of support from the owner of that property. So this is it showing as Fairweather Road, comes down Lindy's Road and then would be extended across that property to the north to reach the northern extent of this property and continue down. And then other considerations, park dedication. So the applicant has expressed interest in the park dedication being transferred to the Islands Trust Conservancy. And I see that the applicant is here, and maybe after I'm done presenting can speak to sort of the intention behind that and some of the history of the lot as well. So Bowen Island staff and the applicant have spoken to the Islands Trust Conservancy staff, and they've said at this point, their focus being on land acquisition where the land is unfragmented and greater than 8 hectares or 20 acres in area. And staff have also discussed it with the Bowen Island Conservancy to see what their appetite would be for a potential transfer, and they did express interest in exploring this further. So that's sort of a live discussion at the moment. The council, when I presented this to council on the 28th, council did refer it to the Advisory Planning Commission, the Parks, Trails, Greenways Advisory Committee, where we are today, and the Housing Advisory Committee, and required the applicant to hold a public information meeting. Council held off on the referrals to the 2 conservancy groups, wanting to hear, I think, initially from this committee on their opinions on the proposed park dedication before proceeding further. So what I have for you tonight is looking for discussion from the committee on the rezoning application. And so we put here, either the Parks Trails to make a motion of support or not support, or just to discuss this referral at initial stage and schedule a future site visit. I know often the committee appreciates that chance to view the site on the ground. And then we would consider the referral again at your next meeting. So I'm going to stop sharing there, and I'm open to any questions. Sorry, Claudia, you're on mute.
Thank you, Daniel. Any questions for Daniel? Okay, with
Uh,
this,
I have a question.
Gigi?
Yeah, Daniel, I was just wondering about the status in terms of understanding the ecologically sensitive areas. I know in your report you did mention that there are some, I believe it's in the Coastal Bluff area, and I'm just wondering whether there's any further detail about that specific, what specifically is there rather than just a general designation.
Yeah, I think the report is noting that's sort of the designation in our OCP map showing environmentally sensitive areas.
But
I don't
there's
really have
no
a whole-
there's no further reports to substantiate what is there or not there.
No.
Okay.
If I could interject, we did do a proposal several years ago, and at that time we had Alan Whitehead do a survey of the area, and he did a report which went into some detail about the environmentally sensitive areas and so on. He was looking at a larger parcel because that particular proposal involved the neighboring lots as well. So we would need to get an update on that, but there is some more detailed information that we can provide as part of our application process.
Great. Thank you.
That would be great. If we could, this committee could have a look at that, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I would be happy to provide the existing report, but as I said, it's a little confusing in the sense that it deals with the neighboring properties as well. But there's maps in there, so it's fairly evident the areas he's talking about, and I think you can get a pretty good picture of what's there.
Okay.
There's cats and
They always like to go right in front of right in front of the camera, right?
Yeah. Would you be amenable to potentially doing a environmental assessment on the existing lot that's being proposed for development?
yeah, yes. I mean, that I would say that's what Alan Whitehead did, but as I said, I think we'd need to do an update on it. So absolutely, yes.
Okay, great.
I had another question, and it's regarding the access to Echo Bay, and just wondering whether or not you could. I've never been there, so I don't. Maybe you could describe a little bit what's there, and it just seems like that part of the dedication of the park is very, very small compared to the upland area. So I guess there's two questions I had. One was about providing access to get down to the beach, because it would be nice to be able to do that, and two, in terms of the relative size of that access, as compared to the other parts of the proposed park.
Did you want me to address that?
Yeah, if you could.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe
Sure.
if you could, yeah.
So in Echo Bay, it's a bit of a, what should I say? I think it would be a good idea for you to come and look at it. So I would suggest we do at some point a site visit so you can see what I'm talking about. But Echo Bay, it's a very steep access to get actually down to the beach area, and it's eroding fairly significantly. Like, you can see exposed roots and so on of the trees that are down at the bottom of the beach area. It's kind of a dirt cliff that probably has bedrock behind it, but it's been eroding and has been for several years. So our thought was it's not really a safe access area to go right down to the beach, but certainly you can get kind of to the edge of it, and there's a good viewpoint access and so on. But we're obviously open to thoughts of the commission on that as well. But that's kind of the status of it at the moment.
Okay.
And
And
I think, Daniel,
do people use the beach there? No?
periodically, not very much, and largely because of the access issue. So we have within the area, in the neighboring property, there is another beach which is far more accessible and easy to use. So, and keep in mind that there aren't a whole lot of people living in that area. Generally what we do is we would use the other beach because it's an easier access beach.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
DG, if I can, I'll just share just a detail from that overall design I had put up. So just showing Echo Bay, and it's a little hard to make out on the screen, but you can see just the contour line showing the overall steepness. So it is like when you compare it to this beach over to the right or to the east, you know, sort of like a low flat beach area. This is quite steep. Like when park staff in particular reviewed it, we would thought to get access would mean like a structure, like a stair structure to get down to the beach, that it was quite a challenging access.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether there was another place within the property that would provide better access to the same bay.
There isn't really. It's kind of, once you get to that area, it's a horseshoe kind of shape, and it's basically the same kind of terrain from every angle. It really isn't an access friendly beach. Now, having said that, in the past we did have access down to it, and we tried to structure a sort of a switchback trail, but it's all kind of fallen into the bay as well.
Did I read there was a dock in Echo Bay?
There is a dock. If you can show that screen again.
Yeah. Okay.
The dock is somewhere around the E in Echo, and probably a bit further. Yeah, about there.
That's my cursor.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, about a centimeter to the left of the E in Echo.
At this end.
On whose monitor?
Okay.
So it's a dock. Sorry, it's a float, and then there's a pivoting ramp that is fixed on the land above. So the float it's not like a fixed dock. It's a floating dock.
Right. So presumably there's access there.
Yes, but it's quite high up on the cliff to go down to that float.
Okay.
So, and I'm sorry, I think we missed your names at the beginning. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Hamish Cumming, and I should give you a bit of background too. Daniel alluded to the fact that this was previously 3 properties. Previously one property subdivided into 3 in 2008. The property was owned at that time by my mother and her 2 sisters, and my mother actually passed away in 2006, and I'm in addition to being her son, I'm the executor of her estate as well. And she had envisioned, first of all, the subdivision between her 2 sisters and herself, which was finished in 2008. And then for her own piece of property, she had her own ideas of how she wanted that dealt with as well. And that was addressed in her will. And she said in her will...
Sorry, I just want to interject. So his mother is Maggie Cumming, who I think most of this committee is familiar with. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know her, she was very connected with the community there. She was a full-time or a long-time resident, very actively engaged in the community as a volunteer and an advocate. And I think in the early 80s, she was part of the group that founded the Bowen Island Trails Committee. She served as a representative on the South Bowen Association, and she was part of the Parks and Recreation Commission as well. And she was also a benefactor to the Bowen Island Community Foundation.
Well, we're big fans of Maggie's here on this committee, and some of her funds have been used for habitat improvement and restoration, and yeah.
Well, that's good.
Very appreciative of her legacy.
So
Hamish, you're freezing a bit. We can't hear you. Yeah, we're having trouble. Your video's frozen.
Legacy, the way it was.
Maybe, may I suggest, Hamish, if you turn off your video, you may have enough bandwidth to get the audio out.
Yeah, we're not hearing anything, Hamish. Okay, maybe. Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So I'm not sure where I got to. She, in her will, left, as I said, 3 lots, one to each of her kids was the plan once it was subdivided, with the remainder going to be sold, and then the net proceeds would go into the residue of her estate, and 10% of that to be provided to the Bowen Island Community Foundation. So there, ultimately, she didn't give a lot of direction as to creating a park or how it was going to be subdivided, other than those fairly loose directions. So what we're trying to do is create a subdivision that really minimizes the impact on the land, and that's why we want to do the park and have it more as a conservancy, a preserved area, and then hopefully have some remaining proceeds that can go to that other 10% contribution to the foundation as well.
Hamish, are there what existing buildings are on the lot? Are there any?
Yes, there are. So my parents built 2 homes there, and those 2 dwellings are still there, and they're sort of at the far south end of the lots. So when we talk about 7 lots, that's including those 2 as well.
Okay. Was there something, and maybe Daniel, you can speak to this, about the setback from the sea, a variance for that? There's usually a 30-meter setback from the sea for any structures. And is there a variance already in existence there?
Yeah, so Claudia, I mean, I think at this point of the rezoning, it's sort of the referral of the application. And then, yes, I think the bylaw would have to have a reduced setback to the sea for those 2 lots.
And essentially, what is that, because of the existing buildings or the proposed building site?
Existing.
Okay.
Yeah, none of the proposed sites would be require any variance as far as proximity to the shoreline.
Okay, Sue Ellen.
And Claudia, sorry, I just say I'll have to confirm the exact distance, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sue Ellen? Oh, you're on mute, Sue Ellen.
Sorry, a quick question for the planner. Daniel, your very first slide, what is that long string hanging out into the water?
That's showing up on BOMAP. I don't know if that, it looks like it would be an outflow parcel.
Because I'm not hearing about a sewage system or anything. Is it a cable, or do you know, Hamish, what that is? That there?
I'm not sure. Can you put the slide up again? And
So it's
It
this this parcel that's showing up in our legal fabric.
Oh,
Hmm.
I don't know what that is. There's no cable coming in there.
Yeah, I didn't think
There's
so. Okay.
Certainly no sewage line going out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Yeah. that's not
obvious.
part of our plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I think, I know I would like to see us have a site visit and understand the property a little more. And probably there's others on the committee that agree with that. But any other questions for Hamish or Daniel at this time?
Could I add just one other comment? Daniel, you mentioned the discussions we've had with the Islands Trust regarding the Conservancy, and we have spoken both to the Islands Trust and to the Bowen Island Conservancy. And as you accurately stated, the Islands Trust has bigger issues at hand at the moment, and kind of said it's a few years away before we're ready to think about this. The Bowen Island Conservancy was a lot more interested. It is our preference to go that route rather than a municipal park, and largely the reason is that there are tax benefits of going through the Conservancy versus the municipal park. Having said that, we want to make sure that the municipality is satisfied with the arrangement. And so if there are certain conditions or something that you would want or think appropriate to put on the arrangement, then we would be happy to try and entertain that and accommodate that as well. So I just wanted to let you know what our thinking is on that particular issue.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you very much for being here tonight to speak with us, and we look forward to looking at it more closely. And thank you, Daniel, for your presentation. And
So the Housing Advisory Committee and the Advisory Planning Commission both expressed interest in doing a site visit. So I will pull all of yous together.
okay, thank you.
Do we need to have some sort of motion to say that we'd want to do a site visit?
Staff,
and
I don't
further
think so,
concern.
do we? Not a motion, but an action item to
Yeah.
do
Okay.
the poll for.
Just an action item. Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Gigi.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, so now we are at number 6, business arising from the minutes. And we have 2 items on the agenda under 6, and that's the Malkin Creek Trail expansion that Ian spoke to, and Carla is going to lead us on this.
Thanks, Claudia. So I think it was an action item from the last meeting where I was supposed to talk to staff about just maybe if they had any concerns or what their feelings were on providing an access through there, just because currently that first part of the trail is an access just for the water crew right now. So I don't know if you guys remember on the walkabout, but there was that first little parking area, and we walked up the dirt road where we got to the water tanks, and there are sample taps up there. And then I think the trail would use that road and then start past there and come up to the second parking area. So I spoke with what the public works staff and the water crew as well. And they do have some concerns about security. You know, they're not terrible. They said that they could definitely be addressed. But, you know, the sample tap there is always on. And so they wouldn't want people to be, you know, tampering with that or turning it on and off. So they would just have to lock it. It's a little bit more of a hassle for them, but not, you know, the worst. They don't love the idea of inviting people into that area. It is accessible from the other side of the trail, but the more you invite people into your infrastructure areas, the more potential problems you might have, just in terms of like, if it's a road, people might think that they can park up there, then they have to back down. If people do park up there and it blocks access for the water crew, that's another concern of theirs. But again, that could potentially be addressed. So no one is against the idea, but there are some concerns. So I just wanted to get back to you with that. I spoke with the Public Works foreman as well, and just looking at costs. So we estimated, and I wasn't sure. I'm glad that Ian came. I asked Ian to come because he hadn't been able to speak to the committee ever because of whatever, breaking his hip. And so I wanted to make sure we gave him a chance to speak his piece before we started making any decisions. And I wasn't sure what he wanted to actually do, if he was going to build the whole trail himself. But when I spoke with Public Works staff, they figured that phase 1, that first parking area there, that they were willing to help with that. They think it's a good idea to add a few more parking spots there. It already kind of is used as a parking area, but we could make it a little bit better. And that the cost there would be probably less than $1,000 and just a little bit of staff time. So that's something that we could probably just get done like operationally sometime next year. The trail up, if Ian's wants to build it, then we can talk about that. The other parking area though, Paul said to me that he thinks that an estimate for that parking area would be more around $50,000. And so I thought that was a little bit steep, but he seems pretty convinced. The prices have been going pretty crazy. He said just the cost of the culvert would be quite a bit. And then it's not really just, the fact that it's fill is kind of good news up there. I didn't really know that. But when you're talking about taking out alders, that seems fairly simple, but it would be removing stumps as well. And, quite a bit of machine work to get that area nice and flat and ready for parking, apart from just the gravel costs and that kind of stuff. So that is in the future, but I just wanted everyone to be aware of those kind of facts before they discuss this further.
Okay, any questions for Carla? Rob?
Carla, when you're talking about the parking space that's easy to expand a little bit, where specifically are you talking about there? Because he was mentioning the cul-de-sac at the bottom. Are you talking about where the access to Evergreen 1 is that's gated?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're talking about the same place because there is a cul-de-sac further down. It's not that cul-de-sac. That I wouldn't call it a cul-de-sac. It's I think it's where Amelia, Malkin and Amelia meet. No, it's further up than that.
Could we put the map up again? Sorry, I'm a real visual sort of.
It is where the gate is. Steph, are you going to do that or do you want?
Yeah, where we had to drive through when the tree was down across Bowen Bay Road. They actually opened that up for a little while.
Really?
Yeah, they did.
Drive right through?
Yeah. You could scratch your car, but you could.
Thank you, Steph.
Yeah, so that P on the lower portion of the diagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's where the dirt road to the water tanks come up as well, and there is just a yellow gate, just the one bar across.
Yeah.
And so that's the spot where it wouldn't take much to expand it a little bit?
That's right.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? I can't see everyone, so speak up, Sue Ellen.
I'm gonna have to go walk around there myself, but is there, from looking at that picture, it looks like phase one would just help people go up the mountain without walking on the road, right? And it's phase two that would make it into a loop. Carla, can you tell me a little bit about how much people use that trail from the first P that we talked about, and the phase 1P, the lower P, now? Or do we have any information?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't, so are you talking about this phase one, the red arrow here? That's
Yeah.
not built, right? That would be the first.
I know. What I mean is, I'm sorry.
In these, you mean the trails that already exist?
Yes.
That are kind of the loop behind. I think they're really popular. I would say that, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I know most people that I know that live in the area use those trails a lot. Especially since Ian has built an extension. So he lives across the street there in that kind of large triangular property. And so just further down past the cul-de-sac, you can connect now to the, what are those called? The new Arbutus Ridge subdivision. So you can connect through there as well. And there's a lot more looping possible. Phase one would not create an additional loop, I wouldn't say. It just takes people off the road.
Yeah, that's
for that small spot. Which I'm very supportive of, for sure. But I would also say that that is a short-ish portion of road, and there's only 3 properties that would be using that road to drive on. So I just think that that's something that should maybe be considered.
Yeah.
And then it would be phase 2 or phase 1 and phase 2 that then you would end up with a small loop, right? It would go then down to Aaron Sluggett and then back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
But I guess my question was, that loop would be there even if we didn't recommend phase 1, because people could walk on the road like they do
right
now.
But phase 2 is not a trail right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I get it. I just mean.
Oh, so what you're thinking is maybe go to phase 2 and not do phase 1 if we wanted to save some money.
Just a thought. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Ben?
Hey, Carla, do you have a sense? I mean, Ian mentioned that it would be a pretty cost-effective thing to do to take advantage of his in-kind contributions to build the trail. I mean, and if it's just a couple of mounds of gravel, I mean, it's almost crazy not to do it, it seems, if someone's going to give their time like that. And is that sort of like all of the anticipated costs or just the supplies that he needs?
For phase 1, I would say that, yeah, it would just be for the gravel. Okay. And then, I mean, whatever security measures that Public Works would have to install.
Thanks.
Sue Ellen?
Carla, I thought he mentioned a culvert as well. Would that?
So that would just be for the phase 2 parking, so that people could access the parking from Amelia Lane.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, so if we didn't go for the parking, because the culvert could be quite expensive if we just wanted to do the phase 2 trail, then it wouldn't potentially be that expensive.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that to me, I think that they both hold a lot of value, the phase 2 parking and the phase 2 trail, but the phase 2 trail the reason it's so great is because it could provide parking for Aaron Sliggett Field. And my understanding is that Aaron Sliggett Field is really not used at all by anyone, because you have this like large open kind of area where you could go for a picnic, but it's difficult to access. And there's no parking anywhere near it. So I think that was the idea.
Well, with the original parking on the left and then the phase 1 trail and the phase 2 trail without the second parking would be a much more economical way to have that loop without the $50,000 price tag of the extra parking. Is that right? I mean, it's not that, we walked it, it's not that far to park at the left there and take the trail and then cross to Sliggett. And what do we need to recommend at this point? Whether we agree with going ahead with phase 1, and we're not being asked to recommend one way or the other for phase 2 yet, or what are you looking for from the committee?
Mostly I was looking for your opinion on it. That, you know, are you really keen on moving forward with it? Do you think that it holds value, and do you think that it's worth doing? And if so, then yeah, I think we could go ahead with a recommendation, potentially just for phase 1, for maybe just working with either doing just the parking in-house,
okay,
or doing the parking and the trail with help from Ian Stuart.
Okay, well, why don't we, Rob?
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say I would definitely support the phase 1 parking and trail portion, given, you know, the economics and the efforts seem minimal. Obviously, more estimates are needed. However, for phase 2 and the phase 2 parking, I think, you know, I think that's a future, like sometime in the next 5-year plan, perhaps. But I don't think that's something that I would support short term.
Carla?
Lou?
Yeah, is parking really an issue for the phase 1 part? Because I think that most people who do live around there kind of walk from home. I mean, I used to live in that area, and it seemed like there weren't too many cars there competing for parking. And the road is, as you said, only 3 properties are there. So I never saw any cars coming up and down when I was walking on that road. It is steep. That's the only thing. I find that phase 2, like, there's a lot more value. I know it's a lot of money, but there is definitely a lot more value because the Aaron Sliggett Field is pretty much a flat, like, nice field for soccer and for like a picnic, like you said. So I think maybe a lot more people would use it if there was somewhere to park. And yeah, I think there could be a lot more value there, but I don't know how to make that work with that kind of price tag. But I do support focusing on phase 2 if possible. I'm not sure if phase 1 adds as much value, just as a former resident of that area. And anyone else from the committee like to, Jeremy?
I would tend to agree with Lou in terms of opening up. The phase 1 is something that can already be done by road if necessary, maybe not as nice, but the accessibility issue in phase 2 is overall more significant to the neighborhood. What do you think?
Does anyone else want to give their opinion?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Could we not for 2023 recommend going with Ian and the relatively modest cost for doing phase 1, and then look at adding phase 2 to sort of the plan for the planning stages for 2023, and possibly look at doing something in 2024, for example, for phase 2? Because it doesn't seem like the cost for Ian to go and finish phase one, it'd be pretty minimal. What did he, a couple of $1,000s or something? You know, which seems pretty modest. And then it would put us in good spot for planning and moving ahead with a bigger project in the future.
Okay. I guess Sue Ellen?
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at the parks plan and wondering if there's any guidance for us here. And it looks like there's nothing specific here, but there is objective 2.2, which says connect trails seamlessly across jurisdictional boundaries to link municipal parks, Crippen Park, and crown lands such as Mount Gardner and private land. So I think what phase 2 does, if I'm seeing it correctly here, is basically links Sluggett Field and that municipal park, Malkin Creek Park, sorry, better to crown land. Like, it gives people a way to move up from Evergreen Lake, Sluggett Field up into Crown, to that route up into Crown. So, but this is just me looking quickly into the parks plan. And also, I just wanted to say Ian's interested in this now. He might go away and be not interested for another 10 years. And then he might be back, or he might not. So it's kind of an opportunity in terms of that volunteer expertise, and it's something we know he's been interested in for a long time. I remember walking around with him like 10 years ago. And so just a couple of things, and then I'll pipe down because I'll get my chance to talk about this at council. Interested in what I haven't walked around there recently either, so I'm interested in what the committee has to say.
I'm in favor of phase 1 if I think $1,000 was mentioned, and with Ian's generous offer for his time and machinery, and increasing the parking area a little bit. I guess it also depends, though, what the public works estimate would come in for the security measures. So that might be good to know that before we give a full, but we could have a caveat in our recommendation to council that, you know, that is somewhat dependent on those costs. I'm also in favor of phase 2 as long as there's some oversight on, you know, looking into riparian area regulations for that ravine, crossing through that ravine. It's really steep on both sides and seems highly probable that there might be erosion problems unless the trail is done well, and which might mean more expense. But I think my feeling from the rest of the committee is that although everyone would like to see that loop trail, that maybe at this point we're willing to recommend that phase 1 go ahead, and in principle we agree with phase 2, but the parking of phase 2 is maybe too prohibitive a cost at this time, and that we can revisit the trail to Erin Sluggett next year. Or how do people feel about that if we recommend to council that that let them know that we are in favor of phase 1 going ahead? Would everyone be on board with that? Yeah, I'm getting a lot of thumbs up.
Contingent on cost. Okay?
Yeah, the cost that we don't know yet of
Yeah.
the public works. Mhm.
Yeah, just a point on that. I mean, Ian was saying people are walking by there now already. So it seems like Public Works should be doing that anyway. I mean, it to secure it.
It's a different, I don't know if people are walking by there,
Oh, that's what he said.
like an access
He
road.
said there's an existing trail. That's what he said. I don't know.
Yeah, right now there's a gate. It's a dirt road that's an access road for the water crew. There's a trail on the other side where you can see some of the infrastructure stuff, but we haven't invited people in there.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just sort of he gave me the impression that people are walking in that trail that we would be upgrading anyway. So maybe I guess it would increase the number of people, but seems to me that should be secure anyway. Anyway, but
Okay, Steph, are you able to wordsmith a?
But something, I hope it's right. Lots of nuances in there. Let me just share a screen.
Would you mind zooming in? Thank you.
So include phase 1 of the Malkin Creek Trail expansion project.
You had meant, it has been mentioned about wanting to ensure that Ian's participation was a condition of that inclusion. So I don't know if include is the right group here.
Include up to like $3,000 or $4,000 in the budget for phase 1 of the Malkin Creek.
Oh, so your estimate is that it would be $3,000 to $4,000 to do the phase 1?
Yeah, we said we said about $1,000 for the gravel just for the parking area, and then so probably another $1,000 for gravel for the trail, and then whatever security measures Public Works wants us to take and put in place. We'd also need to there's an old fence there, so there's a bit of work to remove that. There's like a fencing around the old reservoir.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, do we want to change the word consideration be given? So do we want to make it dependent on the cost to Public Works? You know, like if they come back and say it's, you know, another 5,000, I think that would change probably this committee's opinion of whether it was worth 8,000 or 9,000 to have the trail off the road.
Which would be supported by and predicated on maybe
Mm-hmm.
on public of affordable, predicated on Public Works implement of affordable. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Of
Or reasonable?
essential, okay. Right, we want it to be reasonable price, right?
Mhm.
Reasonable costs. Or
Mhm.
mhm.
Reasonable costs incurred for security measures. And should we say water tanks, or you happy with just essential, such as, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let me see, drinking water. So just one, Carla?
I think there's more than one.
I think predicated we might want to change predicated. Dependent upon
And incur doesn't make sense with implementation.
Mhm.
Yeah, just reasonable cost for security measures.
To protect essential municipal
sure.
from the nasty public, from all you nature lovers.
Dependent upon.
Please go ahead and change if you would like.
Okay,
That's
so
just gonna keep writing until we say
Yeah,
something.
just kidding. I'm not emotionally attached.
And I'd almost just say that all we need to say is the 2023 parks planning process. And I would imagine when we're doing the planning process, we'll decide whether or not it makes sense to include it in the 2024 budget.
Do we want to mention that there had been skepticism of the need for the $50,000 parking to make the loop a success?
I think it might as well go on record. We've already discussed it and thought that that was a bit prohibitive, the cost.
So what about with low priority given to?
Yeah.
Given to
Additional parking at phase 2
was it
trailhead.
Amelia Road and is it Amelia Road and Malcolm?
It's gonna be the top of Amelia Lane.
And then maybe say
Due to
Let me say
projected
your
costs.
given the estimate
exorbitant
of $50,000 in costs.
Sorry.
I think it's a good idea when we do revisit this next year, because if we remember by then, that we'll just make sure to get a good estimate before we make a decision on it. Try to price out the culvert and get an idea of what the machine work, like an estimate from excavation company and figure out how we can get that bridge in there too. I don't think it's quite as light as we think. Not going to be like a 2-person carrying it. I still think it might require a machine to drag it in there, and especially like lock blocks as well, if we're using those for footings. There's there's some work to be done there. It's not quite as simple, I think, as we think.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing my internal workings?
Yes.
Yeah. Getting a look there, geez.
Sorry.
Um,
All these power outages. I got to make sure this is saved. There you go. Sorry.
it's okay. So
Okay.
Ian Stewart, just a little typo in his last name. And I know I suggested and dependent upon, but I don't
okay.
love it. It's I want to say, what's the phrasing?
Contingent.
However, the recommendation is dependent upon the cost for security measures, be a reasonable amount. So it's like, we're saying, yeah, we prove it, but like, that is dependent on how much it would cost to add those security measures.
Well, my kind of idea with the 3,500 was that that would be the gravel and whatever security measures were required, so that provided that
Sorry, where are we? After and?
So yeah, so instead of and, we would say provided that.
Yeah.
That the budget would cover any additional security measures required by Public Works for municipal infrastructure.
Yeah, provided that the $3,500
I hope you got all
budget
that.
item.
Okay.
And if you, Steph, if you wouldn't mind, provided that the $3,500 covers them, like, provided that the
Oh, instead of budgie?
Yeah, but also that's the $3,500 covers.
Oh, by public measures.
That sounds great to me. I'm not a voting member though, so.
That sounds good to
I think
me.
oh no, you're not.
Anyone speak up? I can't see everyone. Is there any other suggestions or comments or criticisms or heart emojis? Okay.
There was a lot of different opinions and nuances. Do people feel validated by this?
Looks good.
During resentment?
Okay, so I think we have general consensus. Okay, so
We're in a seconder.
yes, and I can't see everyone, so shout your name out, please. Can someone move it?
I'll move it, DG.
DG, thank you.
I'll second.
Jeremy, thank you. All in favor? All unanimous? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Steph. It's always a bit torturesome, isn't it?
Excuse me, Claudia. Sorry, group. I've got a bad cold and I'm going to bow out. I'm fading. So thanks, everybody, and have a Merry Christmas.
Okay,
Merry
no
Christmas,
problem.
Rob.
Thank you. Get better
Thanks-
soon.
Thanks for attending for this long. Okay, take care. All right, so we are now on to 6.2, Sandy Beach Volleyball. We're a little behind, but
Okay, so again, I haven't prepared a recommendation here, and we might actually want to just kind of put a pin in this one for now, because I don't know if we want to get some more details from Terry, and I think Terry would be willing to come back to another subsequent meeting, but we did see her presentation at a previous meeting. I think we had a short discussion, but I think we don't really know where the funding is coming from for the beach volleyball. She wants to fundraise. I think that maybe it would be a good idea for her to get together with more of a group to make sure that, you know, to make it easier on herself for fundraising, but also just that we want to see more community interest in the project as well. You know, I think sometimes we need to consider things like I want to encourage anyone who has an idea and wants to do something for their community, but it doesn't mean that every project is worth doing. And I say that just because I know that I've gotten feedback from REC, who have tried to run volleyball programs several times and they haven't been successful because people just don't show up for them. And that's not to say that beach volleyball wouldn't be successful, but because of course it's a different thing. But it is a big undertaking, and it probably would require a fair amount of maintenance. So I just want to make sure that the committee has a good chance to talk about it and decide whether they're supportive or not. But again, we can talk about it right now, or we can wait until Terry gets back and gives us some more details, or we could just give her a couple of points to consider when she said she's still interested in doing the project. So we might want to just make a couple recommendations to her for now to bring back to us at a later date.
Yeah, that sounds good. DG?
Yeah, just I was just in where was I? Parksville, and walking along there. They've got a boardwalk and then they have like a whole whack of beach volleyball courts, I guess. So obviously that's a pretty popular thing to do there. And one of the things I was always concerned about is that the very tight space in the sandy beach, you know, like it's like right up against the forests there, right? And I was just wondering whether Terry had approached, for example, Metro Parks to see like the Bowfest field or, you know, somewhere else, right? And that might be better. I mean, I know the Bowfest fields gets used for like the lower portion there. I don't know, maybe somewhere be more beach volleyball-ish in terms of the kind of place where it seems like people want to be doing beach volleyball. So I don't know. Did she explore other areas?
I think she did. I think she.
Want me to show the presentation from last time? Flash it up.
Well, I'm thinking if we're going to wait and have Terry come back to a future meeting, maybe we don't spend the time on it now, and we move it to another agenda.
Sorry, I could have, if there's previous information that I missed, I just maybe direct me to
okay, Sue Ellen and then Carla, please.
Could I just respond? I just wanted to respond to DG, if that's okay.
Sure. Yes.
I just wanted to say that I did suggest Crippen Park to Terry. And I think she decided to go with Sandy Beach because I think I told her that Metro Vancouver was really unlikely to go for it because of their mandate to do more of the, you know, preserve and protect kind of thing. So that was, I guess.
Thank you.
Sue Ellen?
Thanks. I haven't seen Terry's presentation. I don't know very much about it, but I've been involved with Sandy Beach over many years, including school programs, nature programs for school leading environmental education programs there, and bird watching and general nature discovery. And I know that there's a group now, I mean, they've been planting eelgrass and things like that. I'm just wondering about introducing a activity like that. What's our priority for Sandy Beach? And in terms of nature and kayaking, it's already kind of busy down there. And but anyway, I just want to let people know that there is a group. My partner Will is part of that group. Bob Turner and Len. I think they're doing a project about the estuary there, and how important it is for wildlife and that kind of thing. So just a question might be, how does Terry see beach volleyball fitting in with wildlife and nature? Just a thought.
Oh, it's a good point.
I put
Okay.
the link to her presentation in the chat. If people want to grab it, I can also include it in the minutes when I send them around.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ben.
Just one quick statement. I think it would be great to have Terry come back to give us a sort of rehash of her plans, but also an articulation of the need for something like this. I think it's important for us as a Parks Committee to factor in, the use of or the creation of spaces for young people. So I think it would be worth it for us all to hear from her again and get a sense of what she's proposing and how it could fit into Bowen Island Parks.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on then to staff updates. And Carla's going to give us those, please.
Okay, I don't really have much of an update for the Grafton Lake. We still don't own it, so I'm hesitant to do any additional work on that for the time being. I know it seems impending, but it's been more than a year, I think, since it was supposed to go through the subdivision. So we're just going to wait on that for now. But I will say that the Public Works Director of Engineering is really interested in taking on this work with me or us, or we're planning for it behind the scenes. The Metro Vancouver Park at Cape Roger Curtis, I haven't heard too much about either. I don't think that the rezoning application has officially been submitted as of yet. But I think everyone has seen the closed council meeting highlights that were released. So I don't have anything further to report from my end, though. In terms of our activities, we've been pretty busy with just getting our new council oriented and making sure that they are aware of everything that we do and where we're at on certain projects. We recently completed the stairs. Actually, I just got an invoice today, the ones from Emily Lane to Arbutus Point Road. So that project is completed. We just did some invasive species removal with IPS at Terminal Creek Covenant. So that was pretty fun. I did the uncharted water screening at the hearth at the library, or at the Co-Commons. So it was there. It was really great. It's a really great film. I'm sure you guys are familiar at this point. It's just a 25-minute long documentary, and I think it was really inspirational and enjoyed by everyone. We're planning another screening for the schools early in the new year, and so hopefully we'll get all the schools together in the Bix gym. We'll have IDLC come and IPS in the Bix gym, and all watch it together and do another similar kind of event with the film subjects. So that should be really fun. I had some notes. Oh, and I just wanted to say that I was going to do, I have plans for doing some planters along the multi-use pathway in the Cove. So that's something I'm planning for in the spring. We have a couple extra planters that are like the ones on the dock. So I think we'll repurpose a couple of those and just make sure we have a little bit of greenery along all that asphalt. So that's coming up soon. That's about it.
Okay, thank you, Carla. Any questions for Carla on those items? Okay, thank you. So Sue Ellen, can you give us a Council and Islands Trust update?
Sure. It's been a while since I've been with you folks. So I was planning to come in September, but that was right after the Union of BC Municipalities Convention. And that was a very interesting thing because this is a chance for, just so you know, local elected folks like me and the other members of council who participated in that get to talk to the ministers of forest and water, land, resource stewardship it's called now, and anyway, a whole bunch of ministries about including climate change and different priorities that Bowen Council is interested in. So that was interesting for me. I also caught COVID, so I couldn't come to your meeting. And but I wanted to say that was also the beginning of the real run up to the election. So since I was last with you folks, we've had the municipal elections, and I was reelected to the municipality and as an Islands Trust trustee. And so since then, our new councils come together, as Carla said, to get new Bowen councils come together to get orientation. There's only 2 of us returning, so 5 new people, including the mayor, and we haven't had our first strategic planning meeting yet. So when we we've got a couple of them scheduled, and when we do that, that's when we really put our brains together with senior staff and start to think about what are our priorities going to be as a council for the next 4 years. So I'm looking forward to that, and that'll happen after Christmas. On the Islands Trust side, we've had our first Islands Trust meeting. Judy Getty and I are the Bowen trustees this term, and I was not re-elected to be a vice chair. There was a big turnover, and so there's lots of new people over there as well, and which means I get to be around Bowen more and focus on Bowen conservation and parks and trails kinds of issues, which is great. So I wanted to say on the way over to the Islands Trust meeting, I saw my first humpback whales from around Bowen Island, which I'd only seen one other time. Anyway, there were like 5 whales on our way over there. And then just last week, we had southern resident killer whales around Bowen, which was amazing to me, because I know we had northern residents, killer whales. Anyway, different whales. Suddenly, it's like the sea is coming alive, which is great. We've got the biosphere. Our new UNESCO biosphere has received a bunch of funding, so they're going to be able to do all kinds of wonderful things in the next little while. I'll be hoping to be able to be involved in that. And I guess that's about it for now. I won't. I'll just be able to make it to more meetings. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Steph.
Sorry, Councillor, just I attach excerpts from council minutes to committee agendas, but I'm trying to get in the habit of having councillors speak to them.
Oh.
And I didn't actually attach it yet because it came after the agenda was published, but just that you made a mention of Mount Gardner to council.
Yeah.
The revised package. Can you do a quick verbal on that? So it
Sure. Well, I'm looking at the info items here, and honestly, September 26th council meeting, I can hardly remember it, except that that's 9.2 in our agenda.
Sorry, no, it hasn't been attached yet because the meeting was after this was published.
Oh, I see. You just want the unpublished stuff.
Yeah, it was December 12th.
Mount Gardner. Yeah. We had an information item on that council agenda, which was that the Brian is his name, from the province, who's been trying to put together a visitor management plan for Mount Gardner. It's all on hold now because there is no funding to conduct an archaeological assessment and or inventory and assessment or something like that. So anyway, it's on hold. And so that's all we know for now. I don't know if that means the issue goes away, but I believe he did say that he'd asked the Squamish Nation if they would, did they want to be involved in this? Or did they have to have this? And they said they asked for this for all of the things in their territory. And that's, so they did want it. Sorry, I'm looking through my notes here. And that's about it, I think.
I just sent the excerpt around. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
That was going to be my question about that, and I'm just wondering whether or not it would be a good idea to keep Bowen's pressure on to have the province listen to the previous council's was it a recommendation or whatever their statement. And so I think it would be a good idea for our committee at maybe in January, something put forward a recommendation so that just keeps pedal to the metal, that the province doesn't just stop and then we lose momentum in terms of the desire or the recommendations that's come from this committee as well as the council, that there be no motorized access to Mount Gardner.
Thanks. Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
What I've got written down in my notes, which I finally found, was that I've offered to bring a report to council after we've had our strategic planning meetings. So that fits right in, DG, with what you're suggesting. And any recommendations from Parks and Trails Committee would be very welcome. And because we've got so many new councillors, I wanted to sort of report on what had been going on. And I wanted to mention too, another thing in my report that I forgot to mention, of course, is Bonnie is not with us and we haven't got a new staff person yet. So there's a sort of missing link for some of these things in the strategic planning side of things that I'm going to try and fill. But yes, DG, that would be great if we could have this on the January agenda. With the notes that Steph's just pushed around. Thank you, Steph, for reminding me.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue Ellen. Thanks, Steph. That brings us to new business and 8.1. Any other business? No? Okay. So then we've got the information items that Steph provided, and we are looking at our next meeting in January. Are there any dates, Steph, that you want to suggest, or?
Was the 18th, did you want to are people still jazzed about third Tuesdays?
Jazzed is maybe not the correct word, but
Tuesday would be the 17th.
17th.
All right. Does that work for most people as far as they know? Okay, great. Let's set that.
Sorry, what was the date? 17th?
Yes.
January 17th.
Carla?
Sorry, I just wanted to bring up quickly before we finish up that I sent around the final drafts for the interpretive signs, and I'm just really hoping that everybody gets a chance to look at them over the holidays. I'm really happy that these seem to be finally coming together after such a long time. And so I'm really hoping that maybe you guys should just proofread them. Just like, it would be lovely to have another set of eyes on them. We're not doing any big changes anymore, but
yeah, they're
I've
beautiful.
been staring at them for so long. I'm sure I would miss something. So
yeah, they look beautiful, and yeah, I have I've made some notes. I'll send them on to you. Just some minor things.
thank you so much. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for spending your Monday evening here, and happy holidays to all. And let us adjourn.
Thanks,
Perfect.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Good to see
Good
you.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Good night.
everybody.
Bye.